On January 29, 2025, a catastrophic midair collision unfolded near Washington, D.C., claiming the lives of passengers, crew members, and military personnel. A Bombardier CRJ-700 passenger jet, operating as American Airlines Flight 5342, collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter, PAT-25, just moments before the plane was set to land at Reagan National Airport. At the heart of this tragedy lies a mystery. Why was the CRJ-700 suddenly rerouted to runway 33 just 5 miles from landing? This decision set off a chain of events that ultimately led to disaster. Was the change necessary? Could it have been avoided? And why weren't all affected aircraft alerted immediately? At approximately 5 miles from Reagan National Airport, just 2 minutes from landing, the Bombardier CRJ-700 was instructed by ATC to switch its landing clearance to runway 33. This sudden reroute altered the aircraft's approach path, placing it on a collision course with PAT-25, which was conducting routine operations nearby. The reason for this last-minute change remains unclear. Was there an operational emergency on the originally assigned runway? Did weather conditions force ATC to adjust landing patterns? Was there congestion or another aircraft blocking the original runway? While reroutes are not uncommon in aviation, they are typically planned well in advance or executed with sufficient coordination to avoid conflicts. In this case, however, the decision appears rushed and poorly managed. Despite the CRJ-700's reroute creating a potential conflict with PAT-25's flight path, the Black Hawk helicopter was not immediately notified of the change. Standard ATC procedures dictate that all potentially affected aircraft should be alerted as soon as possible after a reroute is issued. However, PAT-25 was only engaged within 30 seconds of the collision when ATC asked if they had visual contact with the CRJ-700. After confirming visual contact, PAT-25 was instructed to pass behind the CRJ-700, a maneuver that proved impossible given how little time remained. This delay in notifying PAT-25 deviates from standard practices and raises serious concerns about ATC's situational awareness and prioritization. From 5 miles out, approximately 2 minutes before landing, ATC had ample time to notify all affected aircraft of the CRJ-700's reroute. Yet communication with PAT-25 occurred far too late. By the time PAT-25 was asked about visual contact, there was virtually no time for effective action. Even if PAT-25 had immediately attempted to pass behind, its slower speed and proximity to the CRJ-700 made successful separation highly unlikely. This compressed timeline highlights a failure in proactive conflict resolution, a cornerstone of safe air traffic management. There is no evidence that ATC informed the CRJ-700 crew about PAT-25's presence or proximity during its approach. Mutual awareness between pilots is critical for collision avoidance. If ATC had alerted the CRJ-700 about PAT-25 earlier, both crews could have taken independent action to maintain separation. The lack of communication with both aircraft underscores systemic lapses in situational awareness and coordination. One of the most pressing and potentially damning questions in this tragedy is, why did ATC decide to reroute Flight 5342 so close to landing? Rerouting an aircraft at just 5 miles out is highly unusual unless absolutely necessary. Investigators will need to determine, was there an operational emergency? For example, was there debris or an obstruction on the originally assigned runway? Was another aircraft unable to clear the runway in time? Did weather conditions play a role? Was it due to air traffic congestion? If multiple aircraft were converging on Reagan National Airport at once, ATC may have rerouted Flight 5342 to manage traffic flow. Was it human error? Could this decision have been made unnecessarily or without full consideration of its impact on nearby airspace? The lack of clarity surrounding this decision raises serious concerns about whether it was justified or whether poor planning created an avoidable hazard. When ATC issued a reroute to Flight 5342 at 5 miles out, standard procedures required notifying all potentially affected aircraft, including PAT-25, immediately after issuing the change. Immediate notification would have given Pat 25 at least 1-2 minutes instead of 30 seconds to adjust its flight path and avoid conflict. The victims and their families deserve answers, and systemic changes must be made now so that such an event never happens again.